My wife gave my Black Friday bonus to her brother without asking, so I moved my money, packed my bags, and left without a word. I'm a 31-year-old guy, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like the universe was finally cutting me a break. All year, I'd been grinding through insane holiday shifts, Black Friday prep, overnight restocks, handling customer storms that made me question every life choice I'd ever made. But this year, I pushed harder than ever because my company started a new performance program. Whoever handled the most sales and maintained the highest customer satisfaction rating would earn a hefty Black Friday bonus. I didn't say anything to Emma because I wanted it to be a surprise, something that might make her smile at me the way she used to before life got heavier and finances got tighter. When my supervisor handed me the sealed cream-colored envelope, I swear I felt a spark of pride I hadn't felt since I proposed to her. On the drive home, I kept one hand on the steering wheel and the other on the envelope, imagining Emma's reaction. "We can finally breathe a little," I pictured myself saying, and maybe she'd hug me or laugh or just look relieved. We'd agreed months ago that any extra money would go straight into rebuilding our emergency fund, the fund that had gotten wiped out during a string of medical bills and unexpected repairs. I always handled the numbers, the spreadsheets, the bill payments, while Emma always said she hated talking about money. I respected that. I thought we worked as a team. I handled the finances, she handled everything else. But even with that teamwork, there was always one shadow lurking behind our progress. Her family. More specifically, her brother Logan. The guy had been a walking disaster for as long as I'd known him, a magnet for debt, drama, and bad decisions. Still, as I turned the key in our front door, I told myself tonight would be peaceful, a small celebration, a moment just for us. Then I stepped inside. The house was unusually quiet, too quiet, and instantly something inside me tightened. The moment I stepped into the living room, it felt like the air had shifted. Emma was sitting on the couch, stiff, her shoulders tight, her eyes flicking toward me and then away like she'd been caught doing something she couldn't explain. She gave me this thin, nervous smile, one that didn't reach her eyes, and immediately I knew something was wrong. Logan wasn't there, which was strange, because whenever something stressful happened in his life, he usually ended up camped out on our couch like it was a refugee center. The silence felt heavy, uncomfortable, like the house itself was bracing for impact. Then I saw it. The envelope. My envelope. Sitting on the kitchen counter, opened, empty, torn at the corner like someone had ripped it impatiently. For a second, my brain refused to process it. I walked toward it slowly, almost hoping it was a different envelope, a bill, a coupon, anything. But it was unmistakable. The same cream-colored one my supervisor had handed me just hours earlier. "Emma, why is this open?" I asked, my voice already shifting into something tight and unfamiliar. She didn't hesitate, didn't flinch. "Oh, I handled it," she said casually, like she was talking about tossing out old mail. My stomach dropped. "Handled what?" I asked, but I already felt the dread crawling up my spine. She shrugged. Logan needed it more. His landlord was threatening eviction again. I helped him out. It's what any good sister would do. For a moment, everything inside me went silent, like someone hit mute on my emotions. Then the shock slammed into me so hard my hands actually shook. "Emma, why would you decide that without me?" My voice cracked, disbelief bleeding into every word. She crossed her arms and said, "Married money is shared money. You're being dramatic." And just like that, I felt the first real fracture in our marriage crack open. I stood there, staring at Emma like she was a stranger wearing my wife's face, and something inside me just snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically. More like a quiet internal tear, the kind you don't feel until the bleeding starts. "Emma, that was my bonus," I said, trying to keep my voice steady even though my chest felt tight. "Do you have any idea how hard I worked for that?" She didn't even look apologetic. She just rolled her eyes like I was inconveniencing her with my feelings. "God, you're so sensitive," she muttered. "It's just money." "Just money?" I repeated, my voice rising before I could stop it. "Emma, we agreed this would go into our emergency fund. You agreed." My hands were shaking, not from anger, but from the realization that she didn't see what she'd done as betrayal. She saw it as an inconvenience that I dared question. Emma threw her hands up. "What was I supposed to do? Let my brother get kicked out? He has nowhere to go. You know his situation." She said it like Logan was a child lost in a grocery store instead of a grown man who jumped from crisis to crisis with Olympic consistency. I tried to breathe, tried to stay calm. "You could have talked to me. You could have called me, texted, something. You don't just take someone's hard-earned bonus and give it away." Even saying it out loud made my chest hurt. She took a step closer, her expression darkening. "Stop acting like this is your money. You always make everything about you. We're married. What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine." Something cracked inside me at those words. Not because marriage shouldn't be a partnership, but because she only believed in shared responsibility when it benefited her family. I looked at her, really looked, and for the first time, I wondered if the person I married ever truly saw me at all. And right then, I realized this argument wasn't ending. It was only the beginning. I went to the bedroom just to get a moment away from her, away from the suffocating mix of anger and disbelief twisting my stomach into knots. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the floor, trying to convince myself I was overreacting, trying to convince myself that this was just a misunderstanding, something we could talk through. My phone buzzed, snapping me out of my trance. I grabbed it, hoping maybe it was Emma sending an apology text from the living room, or at least some tiny acknowledgement of what she'd done. But no, it was Logan. "Thanks, man. Emma told me you'd understand." His message read, followed by a thumbs-up emoji like this was all some casual favor I happily agreed to. My throat tightened. I didn't even respond. My fingers hovered over the screen, trembling with the urge to say something, anything, but the anger was too hot, too raw. I deleted the message instead, because I knew if I answered in that moment I'd say something I couldn't take back. The fact that Emma not only took the money, but also told Logan I willingly gave it to him, that hit harder than the empty envelope. I lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our marriage, every sacrifice, every time I worked late, every holiday shift I took so she wouldn't have to stress about bills. Meanwhile, she gave that work away like it was spare change she found in the laundry. What hurt even more was how normal she seemed about it, how she acted like I should have expected it, like I owed Logan something because she felt obligated to fix his never-ending disasters. My phone buzzed again. Emma, this time. "Are you going to stop sulking? Dinner's getting cold." The casual dismissal, the complete lack of remorse. Something inside me grew colder. And as I stood up, I knew this wasn't about money anymore. This was about respect. And how easily she tossed mine aside. I didn't sleep that night. I lay there staring into the dark, feeling this quiet, creeping dread settle into my bones. The more I replayed everything, the more something inside me whispered that this wasn't some one-off mistake. It felt practiced, almost familiar. So the next morning, after Emma left for work, I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and coffee, trying to steady my breathing as I logged into our joint bank account. My hands were cold, but my gut was burning, like my body already knew I wasn't going to like what I found. At first, the numbers looked normal, just the usual bills and transactions. But then I scrolled, and scrolled again. My heart stopped. There were transfers I didn't recognize. Small ones at first, $40 here, $75 there, labeled Cash App, Family, Loan. But as I went further back, the amounts got bigger, hundreds at a time, some even over 1,000. All spaced out enough to avoid suspicion, all labeled vaguely enough for me to overlook. But the dates. Every transfer lined up perfectly with one of Logan's meltdowns. Every eviction scare, every emergency, every story Emma swore she wasn't getting involved in anymore. I pushed my chair back, the legs scraping so loudly against the floor it startled me. No, no way, I whispered. My chest felt tight, like someone was squeezing it. This wasn't just careless. This was intentional. Emma had been secretly funneling money to her brother for months, maybe longer. My phone buzzed with a notification, joint card used, 112.46.6. I stared at it, horrified. She was still doing it, actively, right now. I leaned back, staring at the ceiling, lips pressed together so hard they hurt. That small, quiet voice inside me, the one I'd ignored for years, finally spoke loud and clear. This isn't a marriage problem. This is a betrayal problem. And as the truth settled in my chest, heavy and inescapable, I realized, if she had been hiding this much already, I had no idea how deep the hole really went. I spent the entire afternoon sitting with the numbers, cross-checking every transaction, every transfer, every timestamp until my head throbbed. By the time Emma walked through the door that evening, humming like she didn't have a care in the world, I felt like I was holding a live wire inside my chest. I didn't want to explode. I didn't even want to yell. I just wanted the truth, whatever ugly shape it might take. So I closed my laptop, stood up, and said as calmly as I could, "We need to talk." She paused, one hand still on her purse strap. "About what now?" She sighed, like I was the inconvenience of the day. I swallowed hard, forcing my voice to stay steady. I looked at our bank statements. Her expression didn't even change. No guilt, no surprise, no fear of being caught. Just boredom. I continued. "You've been sending your brother money for months, thousands, behind my back." I waited for her to deny it, to at least pretend she hadn't meant it to be this bad. Instead, she tossed her purse onto the couch and said, "And? Would you rather he be homeless?" That casual dismissal lit something inside me. "Emma, this isn't about helping someone once. You've been draining our account without telling me. We agreed. No big financial decisions without both of us talking first." She rolled her eyes, arms crossing over her chest. "Oh my God, stop acting like I betrayed you. He's my brother. What was I supposed to do, let him crash on the street? You know how sensitive he is." "Sensitive?" I repeated, stunned. "Emma, he's 32. He's not a child." That's when her voice sharpened. "You're being controlling. It's not like you can't afford it." Those words landed like a slap. Not only had she crossed a boundary, she didn't believe the boundary existed in the first place. And as I stood there staring at her, I felt the shift. This wasn't irresponsibility. This was entitlement, and it was only getting worse. I don't know what I expected from her in that moment. Maybe guilt, maybe remorse, maybe even a flicker of understanding, but Emma just stood there, arms crossed, chin lifted, like I was the one making a mess out of nothing. I tried taking a breath, grounding myself, reminding my voice to stay calm because yelling never works with someone who already thinks they're right. "Emma," I said slowly, "this isn't about money, it's about trust. You went behind my back, you lied by omission, and then you acted like I should be okay with it." She didn't hesitate, not even a heartbeat. "You act like this is your money," she snapped. "I contribute in my own ways." I blinked at her, stunned, because she said it with so much certainty, like it was a rehearsed line she'd been waiting to use. "Emma, you work part-time 3 days a week. What you contribute doesn't even cover groceries," I said softly, not to shame her, but to remind her of reality. She stiffened, but didn't back down. "I carry the emotional load," she shot back. "I keep this house together. I deal with the stress. That counts for something." I stared at her. "Emotionally? Emma, I've been working myself to death to keep us above water. How is that not emotional?" She scoffed. "Logan is my only real family. I won't abandon him." That sentence pierced me, hard. Not because of the words, but because of the truth behind them. She didn't see me as her family. Not really. I was a convenience, a safety net, a financial buffer, nothing more, and something inside me shifted. Quiet. Irreversible. The kind of shift where you suddenly look at the person you love and realize you're not even standing in the same reality anymore. I felt myself go cold, the kind of cold that comes right before a storm. Because if she truly believed that, then this fight was only the beginning of something much darker. The next morning, I couldn't shake the heaviness sitting in my chest. Emma acted like nothing had happened. She kissed me on the cheek, grabbed her keys, and left for work as if we hadn't torn each other apart the night before. I sat at the kitchen table long after the door shut, staring at the cold coffee in front of me, wondering when exactly I had become a stranger in my own marriage. I needed clarity, something outside the storm of my own thoughts. So during my lunch break, I drove over to the back lot behind my workplace, where Sam, a guy from logistics, usually took his breaks. Sam is one of those people who's lived enough life to hear the truth in your voice even before you say the words. He's been married over 20 years, raised 2 kids, and has the kind of calm that only comes from surviving storms you don't talk about anymore. I sat down next to him on the concrete step, and he glanced at me once before saying, "You look like you've been hit by a truck." I gave a weak laugh. "Feels about right." I told him everything. The bonus, the envelope, Logan's text, the secret transfers, the argument, the line Emma threw at me about real family. Sam didn't interrupt. He just listened, nodding slowly, jaw tightening only once when I mentioned the thousands she'd sent behind my back. When I finally finished, he let out a breath. "Listen," he said quietly. "That's not a money issue. That's a boundary issue. And boundaries only break this badly when someone already knows they can get away with it." His words hit harder than I expected. He didn't sugarcoat it either. People who enable siblings like that, they don't stop. Not unless they want to, and she doesn't want to. I stared at him, stunned. "So what do I do?" Sam looked me dead in the eye. "You protect yourself before you lose everything else." And suddenly, the situation didn't just feel painful, it felt dangerous. Sam's words echoed in my head the entire drive home. Protect yourself before you lose everything else. It sounded dramatic, but the more I thought about it, the more it felt like the only rational thing left. I walked into the house that evening and found Emma on the couch scrolling through her phone, completely unbothered, humming softly like her world was perfectly intact. She didn't look up, didn't ask how my day was, didn't even seem to remember the chaos she'd caused. And in that moment something clicked inside me. I couldn't keep pretending things were fine while she kept digging financial holes behind my back. So later that night, after she'd gone to bed, I sat down with my laptop again. This time with a purpose that felt both terrifying and liberating. I opened a new checking account in my name only, routing my next paycheck directly into it. It took maybe 15 minutes, but by the time I hit confirm, my hands were shaking. I left just enough money in the joint account to cover the bills so she wouldn't suspect anything, not yet. I needed time, space, and a safety net. As the new account loaded on the screen, an alert popped up. Joint card used, $58.72. Of course, another withdrawal, another handout, another crisis I was expected to fund. I leaned back in my chair, swallowing the bitter taste in the back of my throat. This wasn't just occasional generosity. This was a pipeline she'd built without me, and I realized I needed to build my own escape route just as quietly. When the clock hit 1:17 a.m., I finally stood up, walked to the bedroom closet, and pulled down a small travel bag. I packed slowly, just essentials, a few shirts, jeans, socks, my work uniforms, important documents, chargers. I tucked the bag into the trunk of my car before coming back inside. Lying next to Emma that night felt surreal, like sharing a bed with someone who didn't even know she'd already lost me. And as I stared at the ceiling, one truth settled into my chest. This wasn't preparation for a fight. This was preparation for a departure. And she had no idea it had already begun. A week passed, and every day felt like walking on cracked glass, pretending nothing was wrong, pretending I wasn't slowly building an exit. Emma acted completely normal, almost cheerful, which somehow made everything feel even more twisted. I kept my distance emotionally, watching her the way someone watches a fire they don't trust to stay contained. Then, one afternoon, as she grabbed her purse and spritzed perfume on her wrists, she said casually, "I'm heading to my mom's. She's been feeling lonely lately." Her voice was smooth, practiced, the kind of tone someone uses when they've rehearsed a lie. Something in my gut tightened. "Okay," I said, pretending not to care. But as soon as the door closed behind her, I pulled out my phone. We'd agreed years ago to share location tracking after her car broke down on a highway once. I rarely checked it. Today, I opened it without hesitation. And there it was. She wasn't at her mom's. Her little blue dot was pulsing from Logan's apartment complex. My breath left my body in one harsh exhale. I stared at the screen, willing it to be wrong, but it didn't move, didn't waver. She had lied effortlessly to my face, then driven straight to the man she was financially draining our marriage for. I sat on the couch, phone still in my hand, and watched the seconds tick by. Then another alert appeared. Joint card used, 39 to 15. I clicked it. Liquor store, of course. I felt something inside me quietly collapse. Not loud, not angry, just done. It was the kind of breaking where the pieces fall silently because they were already cracked. She stayed at Logan's for over an hour, and the entire time I sat there staring at her location dot bouncing between stores and his building. When she finally came home, smiling like she'd just finished a therapy session, something in me turned to stone. This wasn't forgetfulness. This wasn't stress. This wasn't an accident. This was a choice. And the lie she told that day dug a hole I knew she couldn't climb out of. When Emma walked through the door that evening, she looked lighter, almost energized, like she'd just spent the afternoon doing something wholesome and refreshing. She set her purse down, kicked off her shoes, and said cheerfully, "Mom's doing better today. We had tea and talked for hours." The lie slid off her tongue so smoothly it made my skin crawl. I watched her closely, every detail sinking in. The relaxed shoulders, the soft smile, the calm voice. Not an ounce of guilt, not a flicker of hesitation. just pure, practiced ease. I forced myself to keep my expression neutral. "Yeah? How's she feeling?" I asked casually, playing along because I needed to see just how far she'd go. Emma nodded enthusiastically. "So much better. She said she might come visit next week. We even talked about her birthday plans." Every word was a clean, polished lie. She lied so effortlessly that I almost felt foolish for expecting anything else. Part of me wondered how many other lies she'd told with this exact same tone. How many times I'd believed her because I wanted to. Inside, my stomach twisted, but outside, I simply nodded. "That's good," I murmured. She walked past me toward the kitchen, humming again, completely unaware that I knew every detail of her afternoon. My chest tightened as I watched her open the fridge, pull out leftovers, and talk about mundane things like traffic and weekend plans. It felt surreal, like I was watching someone act out a script she'd memorized for years. But what hit the hardest was how easy it was for her. How natural. She didn't even look guilty. Not once. Not even by accident. It was in that moment, watching her lie so comfortably, that something inside me finally settled. Not with anger, not with heartbreak, with clarity. I wasn't just living with someone who made mistakes. I was living with someone who felt entitled to lie to me. And as she continued talking about her afternoon with her mom, I felt the quiet, icy resolve harden inside me. Because now I knew she didn't just cross a line, she erased it. That night, after Emma went to bed, I sat alone in the living room with every light turned off. The silence felt different now, not heavy, not confusing, just final. I stared at the dark window, seeing nothing but the reflection of a man who had stayed far too long in a marriage that no longer saw him as a partner. My heart wasn't racing, my hands weren't shaking. The anger was gone. All that remained was a quiet, steady certainty, like my body had finally caught up to what my mind had known for weeks. At 1:03 a.m., when I was sure she was asleep, I stood up and walked to the bedroom. Emma lay curled up under the blanket, breathing evenly, completely unaware of how deeply she had lost me. I opened the closet slowly, taking the travel bag I'd hidden earlier. The zipper sounded painfully loud in the quiet room, but she didn't stir. I moved methodically, packing only what mattered. A few clothes, my laptop, personal files, documents, chargers, the essentials I couldn't replace. I didn't want anything that tied me to this house. Not gifts, not memories, nothing we bought together. Before leaving, I placed my wedding ring on the dresser. Not with anger, but with something closer to mourning. Then I walked out to the kitchen, pulled the house key off my keychain, and set it on the counter beside a folded note I wrote with shaking hands. "I won't fund your brother anymore." No accusations, no begging, no explanations, just the truth she refused to see. I paused by the doorway for a moment, listening to the stillness of a home that had never really been mine, not emotionally, not safely, not honestly. Then I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. The night air was cold, but it felt like the first clean breath I'd taken in months. I loaded my bag into the trunk of my car, slid into the driver's seat, and pulled away from the house without looking back. At 2:12 a.m., I checked into a cheap hotel and sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall. For the first time, I wasn't scared, I wasn't confused, I was free. And she had no idea what morning would bring. The sun wasn't even up when my phone began vibrating on the nightstand of the cheap hotel room. First one buzz, then another, then a full, relentless storm of them. I blinked awake, groggy and disoriented, before the reality of where I was and why came crashing back. I reached for the phone and saw the screen filled with notifications, 47 missed calls, 15 from Emma, 12 from her mom, 20 from unknown numbers. I didn't need a name for it to recognize. They were all Logan. My chest tightened, but not from regret. More from the realization that she had finally discovered the empty bed and the empty bank account. I didn't answer. I just sat there, letting the phone vibrate against my palm until it finally stopped. Then the texts started, long paragraphs, short demands, voice messages, all of them flipping tones with whiplash speed. At first, "Where are you? This isn't funny." Then, "We need to talk. Come home now." Then suddenly, "Did you move the money? What is wrong with you?" Then the guilt tripping, "I can't believe you'd abandon me like this." And then the classic deflection, "You're overreacting. You always do this. Just come back so we can talk like adults." I scrolled silently, feeling a cold detachment settle over me. For once, I wasn't spiraling or second-guessing myself. I wasn't apologizing even in my own mind. Every message she sent only confirmed that she cared more about the money disappearing than the marriage collapsing. Around noon, Logan tried his luck. "Dude, you're being dramatic. It was for family." I blocked him without replying. But the one message that made me pause, the one that felt like a punch, was the voicemail Emma left around 1 p.m. Her voice was shaking. "You blindsided me. I didn't deserve this." Those words hung in the air for a long, heavy moment, because for years she'd taken from me without asking, lied without blinking, betrayed without hesitation. And now she wanted to talk about blindsiding, about what she deserved. I put the phone down, leaned back against the wall and closed my eyes. She had no idea that this was only the first wave. The real confrontation was still coming. I agreed to meet her a week later, not because I wanted to fix anything, but because I needed closure on my own terms. We chose a neutral place, a small cafe near the edge of town where no one knew us, where emotions wouldn't be able to explode unchecked. When I walked in, Emma was already seated at a corner table, her hair pulled back, her eyes shadowed with exhaustion. But the moment she saw me, her expression shifted. Relief first, then hope, then something sharper, like she was preparing for a negotiation she thought she could win. She reached out as I approached, but I sat down without taking her hand. "You look tired," I said calmly. My tone surprised even me. "I haven't slept," she whispered, voice trembling just enough to seem genuine. "You left without saying anything. You emptied the account. You scared me." I kept my expression blank. "I left a note. That wasn't a conversation," she snapped, the softness disappearing instantly. "You blindsided me." There it was, the word she clung to like it absolved her. I pulled out a folder from my bag and placed it on the table. Her eyes flicked to it, confusion creasing her forehead. I didn't rush. I opened it, revealing printed screenshots of every bank transfer, every Cash App payment, every late-night withdrawal she had tried to hide. "Emma," I began quietly, "this wasn't one mistake. This was months of betrayal." Her face went pale. "It wasn't like that," she said quickly. "He needed help. I didn't want to stress you, so you lied to me," I interrupted. "I protected my brother," she insisted, voice rising. A couple nearby glanced over. I leaned forward, keeping my voice low. "You protected him with my labor, with our future, and you did it behind my back." Her eyes filled with tears, but I could see it, the calculation behind them. She wasn't mourning the marriage. She was mourning the loss of control. "Can't we just start over?" she whispered. I sat back, feeling that clarity settle over me again. "You can," I said softly. "I already did." and her face broke in a way I had never seen before, because she finally understood. There was no coming back from this. Leaving that cafe felt like walking out of a courtroom after finally telling the truth under oath. My body felt lighter, my mind clearer, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was bracing for another emotional ambush. I checked into a small month-to-month rental the next day, a studio apartment with thin walls, stiff carpet, and a bed that creaked when I breathed too hard. It wasn't much, but it was mine. No secrets, no surprises. No one siphoning off my peace while pretending they were doing me a favor. I spent the first few days in silence, trying to understand what it meant to belong to myself again. The stillness was strange at first, almost unsettling, because I had grown used to walking on eggshells and measuring my emotions before I spoke them aloud. But slowly, the quiet began to feel like safety instead of emptiness. I started going to therapy, something I'd been avoiding for years because Emma always insisted we didn't need strangers telling us how to fix our marriage. My therapist didn't judge. She didn't minimize. She didn't twist my concerns into accusations. She listened, and for the first time, I heard myself clearly. I reached out to friends I'd drifted from over the years and realized how isolated I'd become trying to keep Emma's peace. My best friend, Mark, listened to everything, and then said the simplest, kindest thing, "Man, I'm glad you finally chose yourself." Those words sat with me for days. Meanwhile, Emma's messages kept coming. Long paragraphs about regret, voice notes about working on herself, occasional blame-shifting disguised as soul-searching. But I didn't reply, not once, because healing isn't about hurting someone back. It's about no longer letting them hurt you. One night, as I sat in my tiny living room with takeout on my lap and no tension in my chest, I realized something profound. I wasn't grieving the end of the marriage. I was grieving the years I spent abandoning myself to keep it alive. Oh, and that loss was finally beginning to heal. Sometimes I think about that envelope, the cream-colored one I held in my hand the day everything fell apart. I remember the pride I felt, the hope, the excitement of finally being able to give us a little bit of breathing room. Back then, I thought money was the heart of the conflict. But now, standing at the end of this long, painful road, I know it was never about the bonus. It was about what that bonus represented. Effort, respect, partnership, all the things my marriage slowly stopped valuing. That envelope wasn't the spark, it was the mirror that showed me what I'd been refusing to see. Life looks different now. Quieter, softer, calmer. I wake up without a knot in my stomach, without bracing for the next crisis Emma would inevitably pull into our home. My new routines are small but grounding. Morning coffee on the balcony, evening walks through the neighborhood, therapy sessions that don't leave me feeling blamed or bulldozed. I've rebuilt my savings, every paycheck going exactly where I know it needs to go. No secret withdrawals, no missing funds, no adult child draining my marriage through the person who promised to stand beside me. Every now and then, Emma still sends messages. Not as many now, maybe once every couple of weeks. Some are short apologies. Some are long essays about reflection and growth. A few ask if we can meet for closure. But I don't answer. Because closure isn't something another person gives you. It's something you choose. And I chose mine the night I walked out with a small travel bag and left everything else behind. The peace I've found didn't come from revenge or confrontation. It came from finally listening to the part of me that whispered, "You deserve better than this." It came from walking away before I lost myself completely. My bonus didn't save my marriage, but my boundaries saved me. And for the first time in a long time, I'm genuinely free.